people, when they hear the sound of their voice, whether it be on video or audio, they don't like it. They say, man, do I really sound like that? I can't stand my voice. Wow. And I have gotten to the point now where I accept my voice. I don't dislike my voice. However, it does feel weird if I'm just listening to myself or I'm just watching myself on video. Especially if people are around and see me watching myself, it just feels really, really weird. It's like I'm thinking that people are thinking that I'm narcissistic or vain or something, and I don't want to come across that way, or full of myself. I don't want to come across that way. And I actually had a comment on that here recently. Somebody said I was full of myself, so I hope that doesn't come across. So forgive me if it does, because I really try not to be that way. I really try to be giving and more selfless than selfish. But there's a lot that you can learn from hearing yourself and watching yourself on video. I've learned a lot personally. It made me want to grow in certain areas, as far as projecting my voice more, as far as working on certain mannerisms. So if you ever have a chance to see yourself or record yourself in certain ways, do that. It can help you learn. You can kind of get the perspective of what others hear and see around you. Well, I'm listening to a podcast that I just did the other day with our friends from Bootstrap Farming. They came out and visited us here on the farm. Had a great time. It was a great visit, and it was neat to be able to be the guest host of the show. So they have a podcast and they talk about farming and agriculture, and have a number of neat guests on there. So make sure you check it out. I'm going to get back to listening to this, but podcasts are a great way to really learn. There's a lot of plethora of podcasts out there that can just really provide you with good education. And I'm always looking to learn and to being better and growing more. I like to listen to music. I listen to music from time to time, and I like to just enjoy the sounds of nature and on the farm, just like listening right now. Hear the ducks and the chickens in the backgrounds with the crickets too, and some morning birds, so that sounds good. But I like to listen to music from time to time just to help with the mood. But podcasts I like to listen to as I'm doing tasks that I can just keep going and just kind of be in the zone and just learn. I just want to be a better person. Well, right here we're prepping this bed, and we're looking to use the earthway seeder that we got not too long ago that was a blessing from some of our faithful viewers. We got a number of gifts from you all, so we thank you for being a part of our support team. We really appreciate that. So I'm going to dig this trench here, so that way we can get these beds ready and finished. We're going to have 4 30-inch wide beds that are 50 foot in length. So I'm going to knock that out. Whew! So we got a little bit more to do with digging out the trenches here for these beds. But before I finish that, I'm going to go ask Lacie to put together our seeder, our earthway seeder. So at least that can be ready maybe at the same time that I finish the beds. But let's go ask her about that. And continuing on with the topic of podcasts and learning, one of the pieces of advice that I found to be really helpful came from Curtis Stone, and I believe Joe Salatin has said something similar. And that is, be willing to put your ideology in your back pocket a while, and first make sure that you are, if you're running a business, that you're profitable and that your farm or your homestead is able to sustain itself. Being so focused on ideology and certain concepts can force you to be unprofitable, and where you lose your business and lose your farm. So that was really helpful, because I'm into permaculture, but I also need to make sure that I'm making the farm successful. You gotta get too focused on trying to do everything a certain way. It can cause you to lose out. So those are just some things to keep in mind. Hey Lacie, would you be willing to put together that seeder for me so we can use that today, get some plants, some seeds in the ground?
Yeah, I can do that.
One of the things that I was talking with our viewers about is listening to podcasts and advice, and I shared with them a piece of advice that I found to be really beneficial, and that is the one from Curtis Stone about ideology. And you listen to podcasts as well. What's one of your more recent agricultural podcasts that you've been listening to that you really have found to be helpful?
Well, I like Jason and Lorraine from Sow the Land. They just started their podcast earlier this year, and I've really enjoyed just hearing how they got started and just an update on, you know, what they're doing from time to time.
They really do a good job together on the podcast. And what would be one piece of advice, agricultural wise, that you have found to be really helpful?
Well, I remember when we first started out hearing Joel Salatin say that whenever you buy your property and you're on your property, for the first year, you should just watch. You should just watch, see how the water flows on your land, how things work on your land, and I think that's number one. And the thing that we've taken away from that is whenever you're first starting out, do not build anything permanent.
Yeah. Other
than maybe your home.
Yeah.
But all your gardens, all of these things that you have in your head, they're great in your head, but sometimes whenever you build them where you think they're going to work, they don't work in that place. So just be prepared to change things up.
Some good advice there. All right, well, I'm gonna let you work on the cedar here, and I gotta go outside and finish working on those trenches.
Okay, sounds.
All right, Josiah, you gonna come with me? We're gonna put our new rake to use. All right, come on. All right, Josiah, what I want you to do is see some of these areas that need to be just smoothed out. Let me see your rake. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take the rake and you're just gonna smooth it out. All right? Wow, look at there. You ladies put it together pretty quickly.
Yeah, it didn't take very much.
Good job, ladies. Did you help Selah or you just spot?
She helped a little bit.
Well, I'm going to sit down over here and cool off for a minute. It's getting pretty hot outside, so I don't think we're going to seed the beds right now. We'll probably wait a little bit later. So I'm going to cool down right here. Woo! Man. I am so glad we have AC because it is warming up outside and I needed to come in here and cool off. Here recently we've had temperatures around 95, 97 degrees with the real feel of 110 plus, so I'm definitely thankful we went with AC last year. It's definitely given me a time to cool in and get a reprieve. Before we had AC in here, it was just hot. So I'd come outside, be outside working and get hot, and then I'd come in here and it'd be super hot. And I just felt like I was never recovering. And that reminds me of the principle is just self-care. There's not a specific podcast or YouTube channel or anything like that that I recommend, but just the concept of taking care of yourself is extremely important. I believe in self-sacrifice and making sure you put others first, but to be able to serve others and take care of others and do what you need to do as far as your work, it's very important to make sure you take care of yourself. And that's one of the more hotter topics right now in agriculture is self-care and avoiding burnout. I have been to a place of burnout before and had a number of health issues associated with that, and it's no fun. So I definitely encourage all of you, whether you're farming or you're working in an office or whatever you're doing, to make sure you take time out to take care of yourself. Make sure you eat right, make sure you get the exercise that you need, make sure you get downtime that you need, because it's important to take care of yourself. But at the same time, you don't want to go overboard where you're totally focusing on yourself and not others. And I believe it's important to serve others. But to do that, you got to make sure you take care of yourself. I'm gonna cool down a little bit over here. Oh, come here. Oh, love you. Yeah, you fist bump too.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. It'll probably take one or two. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we're gonna go bye-bye, Micah. We're gonna go ahead and take the recycling. You gonna help them out? Oh, I don't know if we need Hulk's man. Whoa. Before we headed out to the recycling center, the kids loaded up our collection of recyclables into some bags. And one of the bags that they loaded up was much heavier than I thought it was going to be.
It's breaking the bag.
So after regrouping, I was able to put some more muscle into it. And I saved the last smaller and lighter bag for Josiah. I was going to test him a little bit, but I was pretty confident he could do it. There we go. You does master. You can do it. Come on. Come on. Come on, man. You're doing a good job, buddy. Look at you. I knew you were strong. Did you know it? Oh, can you get it? Come on. Oh, let me give you a hand. Come on, you can get it. Come on, get it. Yeah. There we go. Push it up there. Come on. Oh, you got it in there. Look at you. Way to go. Here. Way to go. Alrighty, I hope you didn't think I was being mean to Josiah right there. Josiah, was I being mean to you? No. But sometimes we need somebody to kind of give us a prod and push us to do things that we don't want to do. And sometimes getting advice from others, whether it's listening to something, watching something, or somebody who's providing with actual substance, that's not just candy, like a lot of TV is, or somebody who's a mentor or a parent or a close friend or something. Sometimes we just need somebody to give us a little prod, to push us out of our comfort zone to do some of the things that we're capable of doing. When we're in our comfort zone, we're not pushing ourselves and pushing ourselves to the limits of what we're capable of doing. We try to stay in that safe place, and as a result of that, we don't achieve the things that we need to achieve. So sometimes we all need a prod to push ourselves, right, Josiah? Because you were strong and you were tough and you did it. Yeah. Put them on in. Okay, Micah. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take them out of the bag and put them in there, okay?
Okay, Daddy.
Can you reach it? See if you can reach it first. Can you put it in there? Reach up there. No, not like that. Yeah. Reach up there. There you go.
Here, Daddy, find us now.
No, don't throw it in there. Don't do it, Kim. There you go. There you go. Hand them to him, Selah. We do what we can to take care of the environment and recycle and are trying to use less and then some other things. Ultimately, I would like to get to the point where we reuse more items so we don't have to even recycle as much, and I don't want to throw away as much either, but we're trying to make progress. day by day and year by year. It is what it is. But another thing about doing these type of tasks out on the homestead, and when you're homeschooling as well, it gives the kids the opportunity to participate and learn to do different things. So they had a little exercise today in recycling. Right, guys?
Yeah!
Even Mikey right there. You did a good job. All of you did a good job. Way to go. Okay, so we weren't able to get the bed seeded that day. Life happens sometimes, so we had to come back to it. The next day we came back to it and Lacie had the opportunity to use the earthway seeder for the very first time. And as she began to use it, I could tell right away that it was going to save us a lot more time. It was typically taking Lacie about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to seed 4 50-foot beds by hand. And using this seeder, even though it was for our first time, she was able to do it in about 15 minutes. And once she really gets it down, I think it's going to probably take us maybe about 10 minutes to really seed a bed and putting the seed, from putting it in to putting the seeds in the bed with the seeder. So a big thank you to the person who bought us the earthway seeder from our wish list off Amazon. Thank you very, very much. It's going to save us a lot of time. And it's so nice to be able to make progress when you can. And having this seeder is definitely a blessing to help enable us to make progress in a certain way in our market garden. To be able to go from sowing our seed by hand to being able to sow our seeds in a fraction of the time. But it does remind me of some advice that I heard from Curtis Stone one time. And for those of you who are out there and you feel like you're at a certain place and you don't feel like you can do the things that you want to do, Curtis Stone suggested, wherever you're at, just start. It reminds me of Nike. Just do it. Just do what you can. And that advice was the catalyst for me. It really kind of saved my life and helped me to start my homestead. Because there's all kind of excuses that we can have out there. We don't have the right tools. We don't have the right knowledge. We don't have the right this, the right that. But just to start, start and do what you can with where you are. Speaking of that, another area where I'm just working and doing what I can is our irrigation. We've had so many issues with finding out and figuring out our irrigation. It's definitely been a learning process, and we've had some experts that we've talked to and they haven't provided us much help, but I've been able to kind of piece it together and figure out what works for us. One of the challenges that I've had is, well, with our system, is we have a pump for a well and it has low flow. So that has been a challenge, trying to figure out how we can set up our irrigation for it to run effectively and systematically. But we have a basic setup, and what I use for our irrigation are these mini wobblers here, and they work really well with low flow. So I use these in conjunction with a number of connector pieces that I don't know the names for from Lowe's. And I use these, and I also use, we recycle different hoses that we have on the farm, as well as different tubing for the irrigation. And so far it is working this season for us with what we have. One more thing before I go, and that is advice that comes from Bill Phillips. He was the creator of the Body for Life program, and he helped thousands of people transform their bodies and get into the ideal shape that they want to be in. And his quote was to focus on progress, not perfection. And that's something I've tried to keep in mind along the ways here on our homestead and starting our farm. We haven't had the tools that many feel are essential for starting a farm. We've lacked money as far as the budget. We've lacked skills at certain points and knowledge and experience, but we've tried to gain and grow along the way and to focus on making progress at each point and to not focus on what we may see as far as images of perfection that others may show on Instagram or YouTube or all that, but just focus on us where we are. Use those images for motivation and inspiration, but focus on where we are and making progress each season, each year, and on the farm and also within ourselves. So I hope that benefits you. Try to implement that in your life as well, to focus on progress. None of us are going to be perfect, and we're not going to obtain perfection, but we are and we can make progress all along the way. That's it for today. We'll see you next time, and as always, grow on.